I'm Katie Griffith with Bright Solutions. We're a technology consulting firm that helps senior living providers optimize the way they use technology. And I'm so excited today to have this conversation with a senior living leader who's utilizing AI in their operations. Dawn, thank you so much for joining me today. And I'd love for you to just briefly introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you very much, Katie. It's really a pleasure to be here and to talk about the really interesting things that are happening in our industry. Dawn Armstrong, I'm the Vice President of IT Operations at Human Good. We're a senior living provider that is in up and down the West Coast, as well as Pennsylvania and the Boston and Delaware areas.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to talk to you today and have a conversation about how you're looking at adopting AI. You've already been doing this at Human Good and especially exploring a specific use case because I think it's so helpful for our industry to really hear real stories about how communities are using AI today. So I'd love for you to just tell me a little bit about the use case that's kind of top of mind for you that we can share with the audience.
Yeah, we have actually multiple use cases, but the one kind of larger initiative that we're working on right now is our AI chatbot. And it's built into Teams so that our team members can just click within Teams. They don't have to leave that particular platform to use AI. It's an internal only bot. And our first phase will be, we have 5,000 employees and we have 124 locations, I think now. And, you can imagine that there's a million different questions that even I, after being here for 2.5 years, still need to ask, like, oh, what's the address of that property? Or who's the executive director over there? What's the name of that policy for this? I mean, there's just a million questions, right? And you can imagine from a team member that's coming on board, they even have more questions. So where do you go for that information? Some of it is tribal knowledge, some of it is on the internet, some of it's on the share drive, all over the place. When a company's been around for a long time, you can imagine that information just sort of spreads, right? And so the purpose of this is so that those team members, all of our team members will be able to go and get all of those questions answered. And the
Wow.
chatbot is internal so that we're not pulling from the internet. So we don't have to concern ourselves. We have protected ourselves from a PHI perspective.
That's fantastic. What a wonderful use case. I mean, I just feel like we are so ripe for so many opportunities to automate these different processes, but also just surfacing up information to people that we already have in our organizations. And it's just a matter of asking the bot a question and it's going to go find the correct answer because it's all there. And we spend so much time emailing, calling, and where is this? Do you know the answer to this? And like you said, hopefully the person gives them the right answer, but are they really going to go, oh, well, I don't know. Let's pull up the policy and make sure I got my answer just right.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I think a lot of times providers might be thinking, gosh, there's so many things we could be doing with AI. And I know you're doing so many different things with AI and pursuing so many opportunities. But how does one and how do you look at kind of deciding what should we pursue first or really focus on?
Yeah, I think our adoption, the AI has just ramped up. The usage of it has just ramped up so quickly. Like in the last year, your brain just starts to think about, oh, well, it's there. It's telling me in Grammarly, for example, which is a very kind of a basic AI platform, right? It's helping me write emails, correct my grammar, correct my sentence structure, but once you start thinking about, oh, could it do this? What can it do here? And, the ideas just start to flow. And in our industry, we have to concern ourselves with PHI, obviously, but one of the really fun use cases that was just sort of presented or just sort of popped into my mind as I was speaking with legal regarding one of our affiliations. And we have a lot of contracts from them. and we scanned them all. That was just a, kind of a manual labor process. And then I was chatting with some of our team members, and they were like, "Oh yes, now we have to go through all these contracts on the PDFs, and we have to figure out what the terms are and make sure the entities are correct and all of this different information." And I'm thinking to myself, "Oh my goodness, doing that by hand sounds absolutely horrible." I mean, there's something like 3,000 contracts. Like, how are we going to do? How
Hmm.
long is that supposed to take you? And they were like, "Oh yeah, probably a year." I'm like, "Oh no, 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 no." And I think this is one of the simpler use cases that can be done that doesn't involve, like, obviously our internal chatbot is like a process that we're, kind of in a 6 or 7 month planning, implementation, training phase. That's a long term. This was literally a week.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we took those 3,000 contracts, they were on our shared drive, and we pumped them into OpenAI, which is in our Azure cloud. So we just pumped them into AI and asked, put a quick script in there that asked it to, is there an auto renewal clause? And if so, what is it? Some basic stuff. What is the end date, start date? But first we had to run those through an optical character, an OCR platform. So they call that in AI, they call that pipelining. And you bring something from one step to the next step to the next step, and out pops the information that you want. And it literally took, one of my engineers, he took him a day to write the script and to test it. And then we don't have, at the time, we didn't have an enterprise platform for any of these particular AI things that we were using. So we were constricted with some input levels, but we ran it through, and it took 3 days to run through, but only because we don't have the platform set up. And yeah, out it popped, and the whole thing was done.
Wow, 3 days. I mean, that's incredible, and especially if you have mergers and acquisitions, and imagine all the contracts you're bringing in from those existing entities and being able to just run them through something like that moving forward, but especially just your existing log of 3,000 contracts to
Yeah.
just run through all of that. I mean, I bet your legal and operations team were just ecstatic when you were able to do that for them.
Yeah, there was a little mind blowing, yes.
Yeah.
And that really honestly just led to, well, can we do this? Can we do
Yeah.
that? It's kind of organically growing, which I guess presents its own problems within the IT department, is from a staffing and resource perspective. But, you know, that's a good problem to have.
That's my thoughts exactly. I mean, and that's where I wanna have these conversations and put these out there to the industry, because I feel like a lot of people are not moving fast enough. I mean, it's like, "Hey, you can be doing some of these things right now," and I know a lot of the hesitation is, like, they're not sure how. I would love for you to talk, a little bit about, like, the security aspect. You talked about your Azure environment and having OpenAI on there to make sure when you ran those contracts through, it was secure. Can you talk a little bit about what providers should, be sure of when they're approaching something like that?
Yeah, definitely. So, Microsoft Azure and OpenAI ChatGPT, they have married themselves together within Azure. That was really a natural place for us to go because they were already built in within the platform together. If you're going to go out and use Claude or Perplexity or, any of the others, that's a big concern, because that's just, they're taking your data and you honestly don't really know what's happening with it. So that was a natural progression for us. But also from a Copilot perspective, Copilot is obviously also built in to Azure. And that's honestly, some of my team wanted to play with Copilot, and could we build our own app internally? And we used some of the Azure built-in tools. We were able to get a little ways. We were able to get some of the things built up with really just, trial and error and experiencing it ourselves. But then we wanted to take that to the next level, and we needed to bring in a vendor who had more experience than we did. But you can get pretty far all on your own within the Azure Tools platform. There's just literally just a couple buttons you click to say that data stays within my cloud, right? Within my private cloud. And then you decide whether the bot is either going to target your SharePoint data, data you input, like, stack of files or something, or whether you're going to allow it out onto the internet, to search. So currently the applications that we're designing, I don't want the bot to go out to the internet. We want to be able to control the data, right? And that represents some of its own challenges internally, I think. Some people that use it internally, for example, I know that our recruiting department is using ChatGPT just from a subscription basis to do interview questions and write job descriptions and things like that, which is a fantastic use of it, right? And there's no personal information going out there. But we want to be able to, I guess part of it is really a marketing and training perspective, right? You have to, okay, so this is what we're going to use this for, and you need to understand the parameters. And I think that a lot of our team members are probably not really experienced in AI. So I think this is the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so obsessed with awareness, communication, training, and I know you are too. I know you're really focused on training, 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 right? And we could go on forever about all of that aspect too, and about how AI is evolving, and so the challenges of keeping your own team trained on, the next thing that's coming out. And but I think that what you shared is just really going to be valuable to providers who are looking to embark on, what can I be doing today with AI, and what should I be pursuing, bigger projects, smaller, easier wins, quick wins. What advice would you have for a provider that's kind of thinking about pursuing an AI project?
I would just say that just try a few things yourself. Take your team, sequester together in a conference room for a few hours and play around with just the public ChatGPT, get the pro subscription, you know, have it write a couple job descriptions for you, some interview questions, run a mundane contract through, like maybe you have an IT contract that you want to analyze or an SOW, right? Run that through, because there's really no proprietary information in there. There's a setting within ChatGPT settings that say, do not use my data to train your large language model. So go in there and check that box. But yeah, just like be a kid, pretend it's a pile of Legos and build something with it. And then once I think that once you exit that conference room, I think your mind is just going to start swirling over the next couple of weeks, and the ideas are just going to start coming.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, that's great. And I think that's so valuable. And, of course we have processes, right? We're not just gonna go blast out, okay, let's train everybody to do this.
No, no.
It is a process of just testing and trying some things out and then starting to define it further, right? Of the use case, and then doing small tests with it and pilot, and then education. So that's really exciting. And I so appreciate you sitting down with me today to share this. I do think it's going to be so valuable to some of the operators out there. So thank you so much.
Absolutely my pleasure, Katie. Thank you so much for having me.